now. Gonna proc it now. Like Jackson Aurelia. Jackson Aurelia. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it Jackson Aurelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and cash from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like your Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys pick a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 209 of the Trinity Force podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and as I turn up my volume on the stream so people can hear me, you'll see that I am joined by every single person that's normally on this podcast. We have 4 people joining me this week, starting with Punchinello, who has a brand new camera.
Hey guys.
Wave, punch it. Say hi to everybody.
Looking sexy.
Looking great as always.
Oh, thank you.
Are you doing No Shape November?
No, I always have a 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh, all right. It's like Chira with his 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, that's the way to go.
And DeClaude, no longer Mountain Man DeClaude.
Yeah, she even got a haircut. Howdy.
And the only other person on this podcast that can't grow a beard, his days.
Hi, everyone. Best intro ever.
She just says, challenge accepted.
Right.
I mean, well, look at my face.
Challenge
Like,
accepted.
I'll pull the camera up. Like, this is like the most I could ever grow. That's like 3 days worth of
You
growth.
just scared away half of our viewers.
Welcome to the podcast where you could, if you're listening to the MP3, you fucked up. So, if you guys want to see something that's going to be even better than my 2 days worth of stubble growth, join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or it's not Daylight Time, it's Standard Time now. It's Eastern Standard Time for the Trinity Force Podcast versus LCS Rundown 5v5 Extravaganza. It's a best of 3. We're going to go on Summoner's Rift and play it straight out. You guys can watch. It's going to be shoutcasted, and they've been talking a lot of shit, but what's really fun about this is everything they've been talking about, we gave them the last couple games. We propped them up to make them think they were really good at this game because we gave them Freljord and we played roles that we weren't ready to play. Hell, Days hadn't played in fucking like 6 months.
And then we threw her in at Lulu top.
And then we threw her at the top
and I
lane.
hate Lulu, and I don't play her.
So,
I'm
you
just
know what?
listening to all the excuses coming out, and I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
Adam.
These aren't excuses. These are just these are facts. These are literal facts of things that happened. We did lose. We lost. We lost two games to them. Okay, but we lost. But this next time, they're gonna make them cry. They're gonna be fucking stomps. Like Mott, when we get done, is gonna be begging me, "Stop targeting me! Why are you pulling into my group?" That's all we're gonna hear on that Sunday podcast. So
Hey,
it's gonna be great.
I will say we do have an AD carry now.
We do.
Punch. We are.
Oh, yeah.
So this is all on you, baby. Carry
Okay.
us home.
I'll
yeah.
try.
If you guys want to watch that, stream.trinityforcepodcast.com, 8/8:30 p.m. The stream's going to go live at 8. We actually played 8:30 p.m. on Sunday. That is, what is Sunday the 9th. Other than that, you guys can always please always check out Battle Arena. You guys can see that at trinityforcepodcast.com, times and how to join the T-Force channel. We want you to get better at this game. Bronze Boot Camp is on Saturdays. Tuesdays is normal Battle Arena, and you have EUS Battle Arena during the day. We have Oceanic Battle Arena, which I believe is Monday mornings, if I remember correctly, or Wednesday. It's either Monday, Wednesday morning. It's on trinityforcepodcast.com. I didn't bring up the notes in front of me, but yeah, check all that out. Get better at this game. And guys, don't forget to check out our brother and sister podcast, the LCS Rundown and Oz LOL, especially the Oz LOL guys. They've been doing a lot of good work, bringing on a lot of Oceanic guests and really trying hard to bring you guys good content. And you can find them on iTunes. So just go subscribe to it, download it, and give them a try. Like,
they're a bunch of men at work.
they are men down under. It's,
Yes, they are.
I hate you.
Old reference for anyone who doesn't know the song.
Oh, God.
So that's that. You know, we are going to talk about patch 4.19 tonight. Callista might make it in there a little bit, but I kind of wanted to start it out. And Days, do you think I know you know where I'm going with this? Do you want to roll it in after I introduce it?
Yeah.
Okay, so on episode 207, we did something called Playing to Win. David Serlin wrote a book called Playing to Win. We talked about it, and there seems to be a lot of misconception about some of the points that we brought up during that podcast. We've had some people that have wrote, no one's been nasty about it, but people have been upset that we talked about it in the manner that we did. And I really want to say, like, the TLDR of this is that people are they're not accepting the fact that they need to get better at this game, or they're doing something wrong.
They don't want to hear criticism.
Yeah. We've had people that, and that's fine. I understand. You might play this game for different reasons, and different podcasts that we put out are going to target different demographics. Some of you guys are the people who are playing ranked. Some of you guys are people that only play ARAMs and just listen for fun. But I'm actually going to let Days walk into this, because I feel like if I started out, I'm going to be too mean. But I really do want to just clear up some misconceptions that we have about what we said on the podcast.
All right. I know, first of all, at the very end, one of the things that we said, and I don't know if people just got upset and they stopped listening, but we never said that you had to play OP champs or cheese strats. Part of what we said is that you shouldn't hinder yourself by rules that you're imposing on your own game that are not part of the actual game. And that if you don't want to play those OP champs and you don't want to play the strats, then you just need to know how to counter them. So there all are alternatives, and we're not telling you to do something that you're not comfortable doing. You should play what you play to have fun. I didn't all of a sudden go and only play Thresh and ranked. Like, I still went back and I played Sona. It's just, you have to know that if you're imposing limitations on your play, that it's going to affect how often you're going to win. And I feel like part of the reason that we did this cast was because this is something that you don't hear often in League. There are not a lot of times that you'll hear people condone and say it's okay to play OP champs, and you really have to take away that mindset where you're above all that, because at the end of the day, it's a game and it's win or it's a loss. And I feel like a lot of people use OP champs or I don't want to split push or all those tactics as excuses for why they're stuck where they are. And we want to clear that up as it's okay to do the things that you need to win. It's okay to find strategies that work for you. It's okay to do things that people just don't know the counters for, and to not use them as crutches on why you are where you are.
Right.
And we all do it at some point in time, and every one of us here has done it at some point in time.
And we still do it.
We still do it.
We're in platinum or diamond or whatever it is, and we are still like, I'm not going to play that champion because I feel it's. I'm not going to smart cast because this. I'm not going to do this because of reasons.
Right. So if you don't want to play the OP champs, so you don't want to do this, and I strongly also, and I know we didn't cover this, but I thought about it later. Please don't go into a ranked game your first time ever playing a champ and pick an OP champ because the Trinity Force podcast told you to. Because you need to know why they are OP, what makes their kit a good choice for solo queue, why you can carry with it, and you have to understand that they're different games. There's more than just ARAM, Twisted Tree Line, and Summoner's Rift. There's Team 5s, there's Ranked, there's Normals. Like, those all become different games within the one game. Yes, they have all the same. Right, exactly.
Way different.
So you have to know what you're trying to accomplish. If you're not trying to get to a really high rank, you're not trying to prove something to yourself, or you're not trying to get better, and you just want to play with friends, and that's a perfectly acceptable way to play the game. But for somebody like me who, I used to have really bad ladder anxiety, I used to never play ranked. I was terrified of it. And at some point you have to realize that you don't learn as much in normals because people aren't tryharding, or people play, like I play really stupid in normals now to push my bounds, to see what I can get away with. It's a learning tool for me. And for a lot of people it is. Normals is a learning tool. Ranked is where you try hard. So it does make a difference. And you have to understand what you're getting out of the game, why you want to play. And then you have to accept that if you're stuck somewhere, you're stuck there because of you. And if you watch a lot of Diamond streamers or people like that all the time, every time they miss a CS, it'll be like, oh my God, I'm so bad at this game. They're not saying that ironically. Like, we're all terrible at this game. Like, none of us know everything there is to know. None of us execute it all 100% of the time, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I'm sure Faker would even in his head, it's like, I'm bad at this game. Like,
Nope.
I'm
What
top
kind
of
of,
the world, I'm still bad.
What kind of feedback did we get? Like,
We
were saying that was the only way to play?
It was people that didn't. There's people out there that just don't want to admit that they're not good at the game, or that they don't want to admit what they have to do to get better. Do you remember? You have to remember this, to Claude. Before I made it to platinum, do you remember how big my ego was and how?
Remember how much you cried about losing all the fucking time? I remember that.
You have to remember.
we've
it. Like,
all done it.
I stopped dueling with you because of that.
Right. And then Dom basically sat me down and said, you need to listen to me. And I respected Dom enough that I listened to him. And when I did, and I stopped, I mean, I still bitch, but I don't bitch nearly as bad as I used to. Like, I'm not screaming and crying unless I'm like blackout drunk, and then it's, you know, all doors are open. But no, like a normal Ponophobia playing this game now is not as bad as Ponophobia that was a year ago, or just over a year ago, because I finally sat down and I Dom said, listen, you're bad, and you do this and this and this and this and this and this, and you need to fix this. And we worked through all the problems, and I was finally open and accepting. And I think a lot of people out there, and I feel bad for saying this, but the feedback that I got, which it all boils down to, I'm not accepting that I'm bad. And we don't say bad, like, we're not using that like as a derogatory term. We're just saying, like, you just need to accept that you can change things to make yourself better at this game.
You can accept that you can get better.
Right. You can't learn anything else until you admit that you're bad. Like, until you admit that you have room to improve, you're just not going to notice what you're doing wrong. You're not going to absorb anything. You're not going to change what you're playing. And the fact is, if you were really good at this game, you'd be diamond by now. You'd be in the LCS, like if you were great. And half of those players still comment all the time about how there's things that they're still learning or they're bad. You know,
Scar
it's just
out,
an ever-growing experience.
Well, even look at all the people that are in Diamond. How many of them actually will ever play in the LCS?
Oh, it's such a small percentage of them.
You know what's funny? People like Night Blue, though, don't admit that they're wrong, and they are setting a bad precedent for people who watch that stream. Like, he's good. He has a lot of good information. He's very smart, but he never admits when he does something wrong.
From what I've heard recently, his stream has like changed in tone dramatically since.
Did he? I haven't watched
like
in a while.
he went from being like a pretty great person to watch when there wasn't as many people, and then the amount of sheer amount of viewers that he has really changed up how he like comes to his stream. So
now,
that makes sense.
I'd like to say there are probably people out there who do have that scrub mentality, quote unquote scrub mentality, about certain things, or maybe in certain aspects they think they just feel it's BM to play a certain way, or blah blah blah, who climb and actually get to Diamond because they're just that damn good. Now, and those people have to be able to agree that if they change it, they will get even better. They will improve even more if they get rid of that scrub mentality. I'm sure it's a principle thing. You know, maybe it feels dirty for them to play a certain way,
right?
And I don't know if that impacts their ability or not, but it shouldn't. They should play better anyway. You're kind of handicapping yourself, and maybe you are really good while handicapping yourself. And you know what? Great, props to you. But we're just trying to tell the average listener, hey, here's something that you can get into thinking about, and it's commonplace, and it can drag you down, and try not thinking about it.
That's, great point. And I think but something else that needs to be said too, that is that any of these tips that we give, anything across this, you need to figure out what kind of player you are. Am I a player who wants to climb solo queue? Am I a player who wants to get better at this game? Do I say I want to get better, but I don't actually try to get better? That's, you all fall in that same category. But there are people out there who just play ARAMs. They don't read patch notes. There are people who just play normals.
Play whatever way you want.
And you're whatever. That's fine. If you're gonna play the people and the people in your friends yell at you and stuff, but you accept that's where you want to be, that's okay. I'm not calling you out. I'm not telling you have to be better. I'm not telling you have to be anything. I'm specifically talking to people who are listening to this podcast that
are trying to make the climb.
I get emails every week. Guys, I used to be bronze. I haven't forwarded those to you guys in a couple of weeks, but I have a couple of those saved up where, guys, I was in bronze and your podcast got me to gold. That type of thing.
Yeah, those feel good when we see that.
And
I've gotten messages in game.
Yeah, I did too. And those are the most common emails that we get is I'm stuck here and I don't know what's hindering me and I don't know how to climb. And you know what? That was one of those episodes that was directed at the people who aren't really sure what's hindering them, who are stuck, who have plateaued. And you know what? That may not be the only answer. There's a lot of things that you need to admit before you can start climbing. But that's just one thing that you can look at. And it's a thing that not a lot of people talk about because it does. Like, we got some negative feedback on it, people who were upset that we talked about it. And that's one of the reasons that it isn't spoken about in the League community. But the matter of fact is that if you, aside from everything else, say that you don't want to play with that and you have some moral principle against doing tactics that you see are as cheap, you have to acknowledge that they're part of the game, that they're a legitimate strategy, and you can't, because if nothing else, even if you don't employ them, or if you have that strong of a belief on them, then chances are when somebody else does that, it's putting you on tilt, and it's going to affect your gameplay indirectly. So you need to acknowledge that it's part of the game. It's allowed in the game. It's a legitimate strategy, and if you want to
have more
hinder
fun.
yourself that way, and then that's fine if you're having fun while you're playing, but you can't take that out on your game. You can't let that affect you.
Well, I think there was also a lot of confusion about what is a strategy,
Right.
what is a glitch, what is a hack. And I think a lot of people got the idea that we were saying that do whatever it takes to win. That includes
right.
hacking. That includes the someone brought up the Jax glitch where Jax bought a lasagnas. And I think that crashed the game. Well, obviously that's not fine. I mean,
No.
there are various levels of glitches, right? There are glitches that
or
break
like
the
the
game. Not okay.
people who were abusing that Ash bug.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And they couldn't disable her because it wasn't just specific to
Right.
Ash. It was many different champions. So
And-
no, normally Riot does disable, but in that case they couldn't. But we would never condone something or encourage
Right.
something like that. And those people are going to have consequences. Riot already said there are going to be
Yes, they should.
consequences linked to their
Riot
account.
has banned people that abused it in normal games, not even ranked games. So if it's not meant to happen, and Riot, lets people know that it's not meant to happen. This isn't abusing something where you're giving other people's abilities, like other champions' abilities, isn't the same as there being the glitch in the game where you can use Alistair's WQ combo. It isn't anywhere
Right.
on the same level
Right.
of like glitch.
Well,
It's-
gaining a level every time you ultimated Jace's
Right,
Azir
minion
and you
wave.
use, the minion wave and yada
Right.
yada. But I don't want this conversation to really go on much longer than it was. It was really just this isn't us crying. This isn't us saying we are right. We're warriors of solo queue. It was just that I think there was misconceptions of some people who listened to the podcast and they thought we were targeting them specifically. And the truth of the matter is, if you are if you think we're targeting you specifically for any of these pieces, you probably should reevaluate what.
Well, and the
is
other thing,
rustling
too,
your jimmies, I guess.
we're not 100% correct about anything we necessarily talk about, but and people are very well open to have their own opinion about certain things. But at the end of the day, how upsetting is it really to you for us to tell you, if you want to get better, you have to understand that you need to make dramatic changes to make your game better? Because if you find that insulting, then you deserve to be in the place that you're at.
There you go.
Yeah,
Bottom line, have an open mind. And if you like something you hear or you think it might work, take the advice and try it out. If not, then just ignore it and pick another piece of advice, And if you're still stuck, then reevaluate and go, well, let me try it, even though I didn't like it, and see what happens. You never know.
Right.
And if you
Also-
don't know, then ask somebody else for advice. That's all. Just message one of us. We all help people out. Yeah, except Adam has a full friends list and he doesn't like people. So, but no, the rest of us will do things. Like once preseason starts, I'm gonna be watching replays and actually streaming them on the T4 channel. So, like there are people, but you have to
100 mark.
nothing.
hit this
None
on
of
the
that.
head. If it felt targeted to you, there's a problem. If that podcast spoke to you and you got offended by that podcast, then you have a problem.
Well, I'd also say that in that case, and maybe you're having trouble understanding the philosophy behind what we were discussing, read the article. The Play to Win article
Right.
by David Sirlin. Look that up and read it. He makes a lot of sense. And maybe we just didn't do a good enough job doing it justice.
And it's
Or
free,
explaining
so there's
all-
no reason not to.
Yeah, I mean, and
Is
it's got
there a
post.
link on
I mean,
our,
there's a lot of
on the episode?
aspects. There's a lot of topics to cover there.
I'll put it on
Just
this
check it out.
episode too. Episode
Right.
2 and 9.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, link it up just so everybody can read it. We don't want to offend anybody, so please don't take it that way.
Right. So
We're just trying to help people out. I mean, we do this to help you guys. That's all.
I do this for the
By the way,
podcast money.
I had a
Yeah.
scrub mentality about
Podcast
Smartcast.
money.
I had a scrub mentality about Smartcast, so I started using it, and it's great on mages. However, I found out it is terrible on Scion's Q, because he won't charge it up. He'll just
Hold it.
swipe it real quick.
You just hold it
Hold the
down.
button.
I'm like,
just
why
hold it
is he
down.
doing that? Yeah, then I got to hold it down. F that. So
That's how you play every champion. that has
Back
a
to the
Smartcast
scrub
like that.
mentality.
Like that's
hold
that's
anything
what
down.
we've been doing
I'm
forever.
with you. I just changed back to Forecast.
All right,
Yeah, so-
I am
All right,
make it work for
patch
you.
4.1.
I am removing Hornet Soapbox and potentially destroying it after this podcast because we literally spent
It's not
19
gonna
minutes soapboxing.
It regenerates.
on this
But
topic.
it's soapbox.
All right,
It'll be
yeah.
back.
Let's. You know what people came here for. I'll even link in the episode at 20 minutes in the podcast. We finally talk about patch 4.19. Let's jump right into it. It's a small patch. We'll be able to talk about it, hopefully in depth, and give you guys some good analysis on there. So, right now. The Summoner's Rift update open beta is out. The last set of major files are in there, and we're going to have the beta release coming here very shortly. So we'll be able to talk about the update here in the next couple of weeks and really, get in on that. So that's the first piece of the patch notes. We're gonna walk right into champions now. Singed, he got new icons, got texture updates. There was like 30 texture updates or something silly in this patch.
He looks pretty sweet. His ears look
does.
kind of pointy though.
He's like an elf.
Yeah, not a big fan of elves.
But they're not. They're round when you look at it on the side, but then you look at them head on and beep. But anyway, his potion on his back is way
He's
more
just got
detailed.
big ears, guys. Leave him be. Jesus Christ.
God. All right, so he got a change.
Gotta
He
call him
actually has
Radar
a
now.
new. He has a couple new pieces to him. So his fling. If Singed flings a target into Mega Adhesive Zone, they will be snared for 1 second. A buff to him, as well as his Insanity Potion. Instead of the stat enhancement was 35, 50, 80 ability power, armor, and magic resist, movement speed and health per 5 seconds, and mana per 5 seconds. He gains all of those when he uses his ultimate. It has been increased from 35, 50, 65 to 35, 50, 80. So his max rank now is more powerful than it was before, giving him a little bit more
It's
endgame
to everything. Yeah.
potential carry. No, it's just at the end. It's 35, 50.
On rank
80.
3, 15 more.
He's
to
always
all-
been a late game champion, so this just helps him kind of solidify that.
He has he's been an early and mid.
He
lane
was,
His
but you know
level
what? When they
2
nerfed his fling, but when they nerfed his
Yeah.
fling, it hurt
hurt
his
him real bad.
laning a
Nope,
lot.
I disagree completely. It's when they removed the tenacity on his ultimate.
I will,
That's
that
what
also
completely
hurt.
killed
I'm not
those
saying
things.
that didn't hurt, but his level 2 was significantly impacted by
all
his
right.
fling.
I'm going to tell you, I've probably played more Singed than anybody in this podcast put together.
I've played a lot of them.
I've played a fuckload of
It
Singed.
doesn't matter. Put your penises away. Jesus
Hey,
Christ.
hey, both of the things hurt him really, really bad. The fling killed his level 2 bully. It like really, really hurt it. And then the tenacity made it so he couldn't just be this annoying. I mean, he's still annoying, but like super annoying guy who you can't
Well, you
ever
couldn't do
catch, and
proxy
your
sins and
slows
run
and stuns
away
mean nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could forego getting Merc Treads and just buy Swiftness boots and run super fast and still have the tenacity. So it's like these fixes are nice and they're in the right direction, but for the most part, did you look up to see if they reduced the mana cost on his GUI?
It's not
It's 75.
a single-
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's 75. It
It's-
used to be 100
1.
at rank 1.
It's
the
70,
problem is,
80, 90, 100, and 110
okay.
for the adhesive.
70, yeah.
Well,
And
Super
100
Mega
is for
Adhesive, people would never even get it to level 9. And the reason is because it used to cost 100 mana, and if you used it twice, you didn't have any mana to use Fling or your Poison for the rest of the time that you were in lane until you got, your Rod of Ages or whatever, but it really hurt your early bowling, so people would just forego it and get it later. This, I almost feel like might be a trap for people to like throw down their Mega Adhesive and then be like, I'm going to pull off this cool play, and if it doesn't work out, then you're still in that same. I don't have any mana.
I think it's too hard to get people into the Mega Adhesive acid because you were using Fling to engage or Fling to throw people off.
You were using.
You have to have the problem
You
is you
used
have
to
to have
use-
the acid behind you to get them into it, or you
And
have
people
to
using
throw
it to
them
catch
into
up.
it because they ran away. Like
Well,
Right.
Well,
You used
they'll
to
work
use
out
the
though.
adhesive but you used to use the adhesive to slow them enough to get to them, and you
Right, which
usually
means it should
flung
be
them.
behind.
No, you usually caught
No.
up to them when they were in the adhesive.
Yeah.
So now you're flinging them out of the
You would-
adhesive. So
you
now
would-
you have to change the way you use the skill.
You would throw the adhesive in front of them. They would be slowed. You'd run up to
Right.
them and fling them and hope either your jungler helped kill them or they were low enough for you to just run in front of them with your
yeah, because
poison
they
and
didn't,
kill them that
have
way.
enough time to make it through the
Right.
adhesive to
Right.
get thrown back onto it.
Right.
Very situational, but for big team fights, I can see it being a little bit more useful when everything's chaotic.
I have
Well,
a problem.
and-
I have a problem with it.
Right.
Like I like the idea behind it. It makes sense that his adhesive acid should stick you because it's glue, pretty much. But when you're in a team fight, you're sticking that. You use your Mega Adhesive acid on the group of enemies or where they were running to block off a path or whatever it may be. You don't throw it behind you, run up and throw somebody onto it. Like that's completely counterintuitive to how you should use that ability. So to give it that fling makes people think that's how you should play it, and it makes people play the champion incorrectly.
What about this scenario? What if, so you use negative adhesive on somebody that's running away, right? And you run up to get to them. And then they flash forward off of it. Would that be enough
Then you
range for them
flash
to get them,
and-
flick them backwards onto the negative
It
adhesive?
That's
should-
such
yeah.
a specific situation.
The
Right.
likely,
That-
I mean, you would have to count on their flash being up every time you do it.
And you'd have to count on them flashing. You'd have to count on you flashing instantaneously to get back to them.
I'm not saying that you should count on that happening. I'm just saying that's an alternative usage that you could use it for. Or that it could come into play for.
And I do think it is worth mentioning that now Fling is going to throw people slightly higher into the air. But the moment you land, like the way you would throw them before is you'd throw them and they'd land and then they'd kind of be sort of stuck there for a second. Yeah. So instead, they added that to the mega adhesive portion, and now they just made it so that they're in the air slightly longer, but the moment they hit the ground, they can move. So this is, for people who play a lot of Singe, this is definitely going to be, this is going to have to shift how they sort of play out trades throughout the early game. This does add much more utility when it comes to team fighting, but you're still going to have to get really, really good at landing some
crazy flings.
Yeah.
It's nice to have CC on him. Like, he's never had a solid CC. Like, the fling was good, but again, it wasn't like, it just wasn't the same as having a traditional CC.
It's gravy.
Right.
If it happens, it happens.
So it's nice that he has some sort of CC. I just feel like it's going to be incredibly unreliable, and if people do get it to work, it's going to be the really high level people that get it to work. It's not going to work in like the lower elos. Maybe competitively, like it would help, but he's not really a champion that's seen in competitive play anyway.
Yeah,
so
not without the tenacity anymore.
Right.
I am asshole that runs away.
I don't see it. It is a buff. I just don't see it being substantial to him.
I tested it out, and I in a custom game, and I couldn't click fast enough even with SmartCast. I tried to drop. I would fling first and then try to throw the mega adhesive behind me, and I couldn't do it fast enough to where it would root them.
Yeah,
so
there's
maybe
too much time. It spews.
If you're closing in on them, maybe drop the poop and then throw them. I haven't tried that.
And the other issue is, does he still stop moving?
Maybe,
does he still stop moving when he shoots his mega adhesive?
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Because he stands and shoots it.
Completely kills your chase potential on somebody if you have to wait a second and you're not already way faster than they are. So I mean, you're borderline needing to pop Ghost or your ult to catch up.
Here's where you could use it. If they're bullying you into your turret,
you could stick the shit out of them.
Drop the adhesive in there and toss them. Do like an Alistar headbutt into your turret, only you're flinging them over your shoulder and sticking them for a second to get an extra turret.
But good players will know
that was
once
always
that's
a
down,
tactic against, as Singed anyway. You always wanted to try to throw them in your tower. So that doesn't really change his play any. But yeah, like Cheer was saying, you used to have to use a mega adhesive to catch up to them, to fling them. Now if you have to stop to throw the mega adhesive, and then you don't have the mega adhesive to catch up with them,
then they're getting away.
You would have to be on top of them to begin with for it to work.
It's pretty
or
much
you'd have to be ahead of them and then plan on them running
and
right
hope
past
that they
you.
Run away.
It's really, honestly, it's like an irrelevant
buff,
buff, and it's just gravy if it happens. So
or just change the play. If you catch them in the mega adhesive and you catch up to them, don't fling right away. Smack them a couple times and they run away from it. Throw them back into it. Hit them with some of your poison.
I have a problem with that, though, because if that mega adhesive is already down and you've caught them and thrown them out of it,
it's probably going to
they
disappear.
either have to walk back through the mega adhesive to get away or run a different path away from you, which could potentially be a longer path.
Or if they're on the edge of it, then you might be able to fling them back into it. But it doesn't last that long to play too many games.
That Cher and I were talking about, even if potentially it did work to Claude, where you could put your adhesive down and then fling them, or you could fling them and then put your adhesive down. Anyone who plays a lot of Singe is very, very familiar with the inverted composer guides and the sky auto attack. So what happens is you fling and you auto while they're in the air, and you actually get a free auto attack and extra DPS off. And that does make a big difference.
I wonder, though, if they're being flung higher in the air now, if they won't be able to get auto-attacked, if you can't auto-attack anymore, with something we
I haven't played with him
and
since...
That was a huge piece of trade potential for him. Like, at some point, people were even buying, like, a Sheen first buy just so they could crush people in lane, and this was way back, like, beginning of Season 3, maybe end of Season 2, and it was only some people that were doing it, but if they gutted that, that hurts a lot of his trade potential, and now the whole point of Fling would be trying to stick him in your glue every time. But reducing the mana by 25, you still fling twice. That's 120. Like,
I think we all agree with this change. It's a good buff. Thanks for the buff, but it doesn't really do anything for the.
It doesn't solve the problems that he has right now.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think you should still be able to auto attack. I mean, I think it's not a 3D game; it's a 2D game. Like, even though he's going to be in the
There's
air
weird
longer,
shit
I
that happens
think
in this game, though.
I know, but I think hypothetically you should still be able to sky auto attack. If you can't, that's a huge problem. But if anyone thinks that it's no big deal, it's just one auto, it's the equivalent of every 10 seconds your opponent just walks up to you, stands there, and lets you hit them, and then
get
you
a
walk
free
away.
smack.
It's a free auto attack
there's
where
nothing
they
they can do about it.
cannot counter attack you. There's nothing they can do
no,
about it.
that's why it made Alistar so good. He could
Right.
you auto attack you. So it's
But he would also build around that. I don't think Singe is building static shift.
aesthetic shift. No, he doesn't.
Right.
Need it.
Right.
Well, let's
But
go
I'm
ahead.
just saying that
let's
it's
go
a
ahead
big
and move on to
potential.
Scion then. Right now, that's probably the theme tonight. Is we've spent too much time on X.
Probably.
So let's go ahead and move on to Scion. Scion has had a bunch of tweaks now that we've had time to play with him. They've had time to see how he's being played, his win percentage stuff, and everything. You know what? In my opinion, DeClaude will not agree with this, and that's fine. We all each have a thing. I don't think Scion's a good champion. I think that they put lipstick on a pig with these changes, because. But
That's awfully harsh.
yeah,
I mean, no,
I do.
He's
Wrong
cool
side.
looking, and his abilities seem really cool. But just because something seems really cool doesn't bring it into like super viability.
But here's the thing: if you are finding success with it, like Scion or DeClaude is, more power to you. Keep playing
Play
it
it.
and keep. You know, like I'm kind of looking at you, DeClaude. Keep playing it. Keep showing me, why you work.
Oh, I will.
For you.
He's
I'm not
He's
telling you not to
viable.
play it.
He's fun, and these tweaks just make him better.
Oh, absolutely.
I did play a little bit on him after 4.19 was released, and I did notice. I'm just going to skip a little bit here. His Roar of the Slayer, the E where he tosses a minion or he slows you and reduces your mana or your armor. Right. It was increased to 35 mana at all ranks from 25 at all ranks. Okay, 10 more mana at all ranks. It's actually quite noticeable because I spam the shit out of that when I'm laning on Scion.
Yeah, you still leveling that first?
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
you
yeah.
should be, because it's your
the
primary
reason I
harass
am
if you
is-
are anywhere, right?
The reason I am just because I use it so much in lane. What's the point in ranking the other ones if I barely use them because I don't
Right.
have enough mana to spam them? And also because it's not going to be enhanced by my items later on, so I need to get the most out of it by ranking it early and getting all the damage as fast as I can, because it doesn't matter what I build. However, they did reduce the mana slightly by 5 mana on Q, Decimating Smash, and Soul Furnace as well, which was not noticeable to make up for it. But I guess in a full rotation, it evens out to what it was, because 10 more mana on Roar of the Slayer, 10 total mana between Q and W less, it's a wash. But so you really don't notice it unless it's the way I play. I spam E, so I noticed I'm using more mana.
So
If you spam
you're
Q or
being
W.
rewarded if you're able to pull off a complete combo without playing the just spam E playstyle.
Jungle Scion, there's no real reason to use E while in the jungle anyway. So you're
Sure, because
Don't
you push
use
your
it.
minion away from you, and you have to wait for it to walk back. And
and
it's
it does
getting life.
it does minimal damage, so it's not really good
See, that was
for
my
the
problem.
monsters.
I watched a video today from Sandro, who's Gathers Granola. He sent me a video that said how to play top lane Scion, and I watched it. I watched most of it, and every time he would use E to harass somebody and hit with it, I was like, that doesn't do any damage at all. Like, you have to do a full combo to do damage, and you can if you're good at landing an
Well,
entire combo.
That's
And-
the thing. E does a lot of damage if you hit a minion and hit
No,
them,
he was.
because
He was
the-
hitting.
so-
I was watching it. He was like in
He
the
wasn't
video that he
ranking it
sent me.
then.
He was no, he was. He was ranking E first, and I watched it. It did no damage. Like he would hit them.
chunks.
Whatever it was with the video, it was explaining how to play top lane Scion. Max E. Make yourself. Line yourself up with the enemy the entire time. Smack means to do it, and I was like, this doesn't do anything, but that's fine. Thanks for the video. I need to email him back and actually tell him what I thought about
You
it.
need to
but-
lane against a few, and you'll see. I've
I
had people
decimated top lane
rage like, "Oh my
Scion.
god!"
I'd shit on him with Master Yi, and you guys would cry. All right, let's talk about it. General health per level has been increased from 70 to 73 per level, so he's getting even more
buff.
life. Passive Glory in Death that has actually been changed from max health per tick. So Scion's health decay in passive form now scales with his champion level, which I actually like better than it was before because it scaled with items, essentially. Before, it was 0.5% maximum health in the first tech, increasing by 0.4% maximum health. Now it is champion level, 2-time first tick, increasing by 1.4 time per level per tick. So no matter what you build on the champion, you are going to have, you know what amount of life you're going to have, and you know how long you're going to last for. And I like that better than you have to build a Warmogs to make this champion worth it after he dies. It's, you know, like that's the way I look at it. It's like I had to build certain items to make his passive worth my time to use.
Well,
or get like a
weren't you
spirit
dying
visage
the same
taken
amount of
life
time
somewhere.
before? Like, weren't you dying the same amount of time before, despite your health?
You could.
Because it was percentage.
It was 0.4%. So yeah, but
So I mean, Warmogs should help you now rather than before.
no, it's champion level. It's you die 2 times level first tick, increasing by 1.4 time level per tick, rather
Right.
than maximum health.
Maybe I misheard you, but I mean, the more health you have now, the longer you're going to stay alive.
Right.
So
There
Warmogs
were-
going to help you more now as opposed to before.
I
There were
guess
some-
actually you're right. I was thinking about it the other way, where if you're, go ahead.
Yeah, because it was negating how much health you had. When
Well,
you
there
went
there
to
are
pass.
You're
some
right, I'm wrong.
arguments.
You're right, I'm wrong.
There are some arguments that, like, due to certain breakpoints, that you actually need like way more health than you needed in the past to be able to keep up the same like slow burn with losing health and the passive. But I mean, unless I see like the same math coming out of a bunch of people, because it was a bunch of people just posting their math, and I don't feel like doing all the math myself. I don't know. In my opinion, the jury's still out on this. I want to see how it works for a while.
As you get more health, as your W stacks, as you buy more health, as the game gets later, let's say you're level 18, you've all plateaued at level 18, it's doing the same. You're losing the same amount of health every time, and if you build more health, you're going to last longer, just as Punch was saying. So it's a buff. It's a buff to his passive,
there was
especially as he builds health.
somebody who had done the math that had determined that you needed 6,300 health to make up for the amount of extra damage that you're taking, and that amount of health would just be like, for the most part, you would have to. The argument was that you have to be a fed scion to be able to get a benefit out of the amount of extra damage that you're taking up until you get to a certain health point. Just because you're taking like a certain base amount of health until you get there, rather than it scaling with your level. Unless I actually see the math for that, and like, I don't know.
Hey,
I'm
listeners,
worried about
if
this
you're
ability.
out there right now, find us a post, do the math, tweet at us, email
And
us.
let us know.
Let us know what you guys find, 'cause we didn't do the math before this, obviously, because none of us
I
are
did-
mathematicians.
Yeah, I did see someone else claiming that too.
Yeah, like, and the number 6,300 just really stood out because that was a ridiculous amount of health. But the guy was just saying that like this hurts any scion that doesn't get fed, because it's just realistically not. You're not going to have that much health in a regular game. The game's just not going to get that far for you to do it.
Right. Well, let's
you
go ahead
shouldn't
and
be worrying
move
about
on
it.
with some of this, because we actually
Yeah.
we don't have a lot
Right.
of patch notes to go through, but we have like 15 minutes to get through the rest of the patch notes. So I want to make sure we're
Yeah, let's finish off the passive. Sunfire Cape now works while you're in your passive.
Which didn't
And,
before, so
right.
that's
and,
huge.
And Yorick's ultimate Glorian Death no longer fails to activate in cases where he is targeted by Yorick's Omen of Death. Doesn't trigger the revive effect and then dies later on in the match. So they fixed a bug with Yorick's ult
good.
on him. So
Did we
Yorick is
mention
helping.
that?
I like
Did
the
we
title of
mention
that.
that Q now has a reduced? But you kind of passively mentioned that Q has a reduced mana cost.
5
It's-
less mana at all ranks.
Right. And W has a reduced mana cost, 5 less at all ranks, but the passive health gain is now 10 on large monster kills and champ. So that's nice. It's been increased by 2 health.
Yeah, exactly.
Claude,
For the
did you
big
ever-
ones.
Did you ever run into this bug that they're talking about under the Q, where Scion can now properly cast Decimating Smash immediately after Roar of the Slayer? Did you have that problem?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that
Yeah, it's
happened all
annoying,
the time
it's
then.
annoying as hell.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now that's a significant.
You're sitting there
Good
spamming. Yeah,
change.
exactly. Right. You hit Roar of the Slayer, and it's like a pause, and you're hitting Q, and then all of a sudden he'll start it, and it's long enough as it is, so it was annoying as hell. I haven't tried messing with it after this patch release just today, so I haven't seen how much smoother it feels. But I didn't see any mention of the one bug that really irritated the piss out of me, which was sometimes his Q and R would be unusable. They would just, you couldn't use it. And there was a fix for it. You had to, and I posted a fix on Twitter, but I forget already because I haven't played him in a while. But they didn't mention that, so hopefully that's not happening anymore too. But I want to just touch real quick again on the Roar of the Slayer. How I was saying I was using it to spam and lane blow. I noticed the mana increase. Also, what they changed about it, it's a jungle sign buff. Knockback minions are no longer invulnerable to damage while in flight, but can't be killed before landing unless Scion casts Smite on them.
Huh.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's one of those things where I guess
If you
I see it as a harass. Right. I always look at the minion's health before I use it to harass as well, because if it's too low, it's not going to go ahead and hit my target because it's not going to make it there because the initial damage is going to kill it. So, I don't know. You can smite things now. It's not invulnerable while in air, so you're just in there trying to smite something real quick, and the enemy gets it because they landed after you. Like, what the hell? Why didn't it go off?
I noticed that there was a 10-minute video or 6-minute video of weird Scion things that happened because of the resurrection and all that. And it was, if I remember correctly, if you E'd something and then tried to smite it in air, it was invulnerable while it was in air, so you couldn't E-smite, right?
Right, exactly. You had to wait for it to land.
Right, so you would waste your smite as the blue buff flew over the wall or whatever, and like you didn't get it.
Or it would work. So, but yeah, that's pretty much Scion. We described what happened with everything, and I still disagree with you that you say he was doing no damage. It's 100 damage at rank 1, free, for 25 mana. You can't argue with that. So, I'm right, you're wrong. Move on. Next champ.
You're not right. Nivea,
right.
flash.
All right, I actually think we could group Anivia, Fiddlesticks, Pantheon, and Warwick all into this one thing. Because they fixed
a little different than
these are all kind of
they're all very similar. They fixed the same sort of bug on every single one of them.
They wouldn't cast Flash Frost in the direction of the cursor.
No, Anivia's is different than Fiddlesticks and Warwick.
Then the other thing.
It's way different.
Yeah, so Nivea is like if you. Honestly, the best way to play this game is to have your cursor as close to your champion as possible because it helps you to juke. But a lot of people play with the cursors off in a direction that they're moving or where they want to do or where they want to cast things. So what would happen is if your cursor was too far away from your champion and it was beyond the Q range, it would take it as that's where it wanted your Q to end. So you'd move before you casted it.
Oh yeah.
So this now fixes it where you can just
a long time ago.
So this now just makes it's a huge quality of life fix where now you can, even if your cursor's not right near your champion, it'll go in the direction you want it to without you moving. It's almost like the problem with attack move. Like sometimes if you hit the ground on accident, you'll move instead of attacking. This is kind of the same thing.
You know what? I kind of felt like this.
If you're used to it the way it is now, you'll be throwing Flash Frost immediately and when expecting to wait till you get there. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. You know what's funny is there was thing that, like Pantheon, for example, I always felt like trying to smart cast his ultimate was the wrong way to go about it because I always felt like you walked too far to smart cast it. Kind of like the same thing, like it expected you to be at a certain range inside the range that you can cast the ability to get it off. I'm probably wrong, but that's how it feels. It always feels like I can get it off more quickly because, it targets from the center. So it expects the center to be at a different location than where you actually put it when you're smart casting the ability. It's really odd. I'd actually have to show you guys what I mean, but it's kind of like the same thing where it expects you to be in a location to start the cast.
Right, I have a problem with on Zyra sometimes where I'll E to put the root down, and then I'll go to just throw a seed down so that it'll pop up the plant, but I won't be quite close enough for the range for the seed to drop, so it'll move me. And all I want to do is drop the damn plant, the seed down, but it'll move me.
Does it too.
Right. So there are champions that do that, but with Anivia, it's, probably a little bit more of an issue.
Jen actually had the same bug here or I don't know if it's a bug, but she had the same issue with the Q, and that might have been what you were thinking of earlier. But they did the same thing with the Q now, where fixed a bug where Jenna wouldn't cast the direction of her cursor, she wasn't arranged to cast it.
Yep. They fixed a lot of weird bugs.
Fixed a bug where rapidly spamming a basic ability at the very end of Crowstorm channel sometimes caused the ability to go on cooldown without casting or appearing to be a cooldown in the HUD.
And that's the same thing that they fixed for Pantheon and Warwick. Basically, if you were ulting something and then spamming an ability while you were kind of sitting there channeling your massive ultimate into people's faces, it would just say, hey, your ability didn't cast, but you're on cooldown.
I think I've ran into that, not knowingly.
I have.
Or knowingly ran into it, but
I've run into it with W.
That's actually a big change because that's potentially like an extra ability.
Damage, yeah.
Well, Janna, Zephyr.
But it doesn't happen that often.
I like this change on Janna. I think it's one of those things that they're going to change now, and then Season 5 is going to come and they're going to change it back. So Zephyr, the cooldown is now 12 seconds at all rank rather than going down. It's still affected by cooldown reduction.
Right.
So, but you can't get a 4-second Zephyr anymore. You can't continually slow the entire team down.
Oh, shucks.
I honestly like this change because it was really hard to catch up to her at all because she had the tornado, she had Zephyr, she had her move speed buff, there's so much. And then when you can just spam an ability like that on a 4-second cooldown, at least this gives you a little bit of counterplay in terms of being able to catch up to her once she's blown that ability.
Not even to mention catching up to her, but like getting away from her as well. If she was
Right.
convinced that she was going to chase you from one end of the rift to the other, you weren't getting away.
No, you could. Yeah, she could chase you.
She could Zephyr Q Zephyr you
Yep.
that quick, and by that time you should be dead.
If somebody else is on you, yeah.
If someone else, yeah.
LeBlanc has a change. Her passive flashing no longer de-stealths LeBlanc and her clone when mirror image is triggered. So that's nice. So she can flash over walls
Little
after
sneaky.
she's
Quality of life
Yeah.
buff.
More jukes.
more
Yeah.
jukes. So interesting changes with Lucian. I feel W and R both got changed. The biggest one here is just the culling. Got a giant nerf, and it needed the nerf so badly. So we're going to start with that. The culling cooldown has been increased to 110, 190. So you no longer, it used to be 175, 50. So it went a
They basically
40-second
doubled the
increase
cooldown.
because of cooldown reduction.
Right.
You no longer have a 40-second culling or 30-second culling. That could clear waves every 30 seconds at the end of the game. Honestly, that was
Yeah,
just
that's
as
pretty
annoying
dramatic.
as playing into Ziggs.
Yeah, because he could just counter shove, or he could like help immediately kill an objective, or whatever.
Well, if you let's say you put Lucian and Ziggs on a team, you were never ever making it into that tower
no.
because they could continually clear. Lucian could clear every like 2 waves or every 3 waves.
I see your
It's just
point
really
here,
low
but
for an ult.
when I picked Lucian, it really wasn't to clear waves. I think it was a nice to have thing. I mean, you never needed culling in a team fight, for instance.
Sure.
I mean, the two scenarios where I'd use culling is to clear waves, as you said, and to try and snipe somebody that's running away and they're at low health. But I mean, I wouldn't use it in the middle of a team fight.
You wouldn't use it to get that extra 2 auto attacks off.
What? Get the hell out of here!
No, you would definitely, as Lucian, in the middle of a team fight, if somebody's diving onto you and you're attacking, and they still can come at
Oh,
you.
so you
after
mean
you've
running
blown
away
it.
while casting the culling?
Correct. Like you would definitely
Yeah,
use
that.
culling like in the middle of a team fight to get extra damage off while you're waiting for cooldowns to come up. Cancel it. Get 2 auto attacks off, and your E is back off a cooldown, and you can use that again. Like
Who did
good
that
Lucian
in
players
LCS?
would use that
In an LCS
that
game,
way.
there were pretty much it was Lucian trying to kill the enemy Nexus, but he used the culling by accident and didn't cancel it fast enough. And the Nexus had 1 hit because he wanted to do the double hit, like you were just talking about on the Nexus, but he didn't cancel it fast enough because it's a little tricky, and he died, and they lost the game.
I think the
So be careful
important
with
part, I know we don't normally read like their little notes on it, but the important part of what they put in and why they wanted to change it is because it's taking some of the safety away from Lucian. Like
Right.
he didn't have to be anywhere near people to use the culling and do damage. Like, and this just puts him in a situation where it's not such a fallback for him. And he has to be a little bit smarter about using it because it's not up every 40 seconds, 50 seconds, whatever your cooldown is. And then it just forces you to be a little bit smarter about it's the same thing with his dash. Like you have to be a little bit more thoughtful in when you're going to use it and how you're going to use it.
Again, I see what you're saying. Maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's going to have more of an impact than I thought. I personally thought W was going to have more of an impact on Lucian than the culling. I never put a lot of culling. Maybe that's
I've
just my
noticed the
fault.
culling when it's getting late game and there's a lot of the Baron dances and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. He's churning out those cullings and it's changing the fight, and it's like, damn, it's off cooldown already. Holy shit!
Well, the thing is too, like
Right.
say
60 seconds.
somebody's on Dragon or anything like that, that can help secure stuff before the other team can even get close to making it there. Like that,
Right.
that isn't something that can just be like shirked off as not helpful throughout the game. And the fact that you can use it, prior to this point twice as often, that
now you just got to be
this is
stingy
a
with it a
big
little
change.
bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
you have
Before
to
you
pick
use
and
it, like,
choose when you use it.
screw it.
You can
Might
still
as
have
well
it
use
up
it.
as big objectives, but I mean,
Right.
even before, I don't think that there was a Baron dance where you got 2 cullings off. I've never seen that happen.
No, and it
Well,
isn't that you
really
got
long.
But
two
you could
callings.
use
It isn't
I've
that
seen
you
that
got
happen.
2 off. It's the fact that you could use it in one team fight and then by the time the Baron Dance starts and whatever, it's up again. Like, it would be up from the time it would take you to kill Dragon, run up to the other side of the map, dance around a little bit, it'd be up again.
And
now you're going to
influence
actually
back.
make a choice on, should I call in here or do I need to save it for whenever, which usually when it comes to
40
ults,
seconds
it's like,
is a long time.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not discounting the actual time that they increase. It is
Let's-
a big. That's a
I
that's a
mention-
huge nerf
I
hit.
think it doesn't sound like as much of an impact, but once you, like, if you're an avid Lucian player and you use it a lot and you
You'll feel
take advantage of that cooldown, you're going to notice it. You're
I-
going to have one
Whenever-
skill half as often as you used to.
I played Lucian yesterday, and I felt like my ultimate was up every single time that I wanted to use it.
Yeah, you might as well just use it to clear a
close.
wave because it'll be up for a team fight by
Well, there
the
was
time you
no
get back.
reason not to use it. It was always up.
That was the
Right.
thing. You would be you pretty much rush Brutalizer on Lucian right now, and that 10% extra cooldown reduction made it so it was of what was it? 50 seconds was a 40-second cooldown at that point, or a 42-second cooldown. Why wouldn't you just use it at the end of the game because it was up?
Also, boost of lucidity. It's less than that.
Yeah, it would
So they
be
do too.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Well,
But,
yeah. Well, there's really two types of Lucian players. There's the Berserker Greaves for more ultimate procs, or there's the Lucidity.
I'm gonna
for
cast more abilities.
Yeah, more abilities. Just,
I'm
you
the
know.
later one. I like.
We mentioned the Ardent. We didn't mention what happened to Ardent Blaze. Punch mentioned that
Right.
something did happen. He thinks this is going to be more impactful. It's not a nuke anymore because it doesn't. I guess it is, but it doesn't have an
Did
attack
any-
damage ratio. So no matter
I don't
what you
think it
build,
was-
it doesn't matter.
It was never a nuke
Ever
to
a
begin
nuke.
with.
You know,
yeah,
it
use it for the
wasn't,
movement speed.
Yeah.
so it's
Right.
It's a
You
increase
used
on
it for
that.
2 more auto attacks, is what you used
Right.
it for.
Right.
Yes.
It was never
One
the
for the-
damage of that never won you anything. Like it was a
0.3
minor
attack damage
annoyance
ratio.
in lane. Yeah, it was never. But like especially in lane, like you only use it to proc your passive. It was barely an annoyance, even when you're playing against it. Or maybe you could like if somebody was under tower, sometimes you could like snipe them with it if they were really low.
Right.
But I don't think that it's the damage on that was never what really made that ability. It was the ability to proc your passive and then the move speed. So this gives
Which
him
they
more.
buffed.
Yeah,
Which they did
exactly.
buff.
An extra
It went from
20
40
move
at all
speed.
ranks to 40, 45, 50, 55, 60.
Right.
Right. Now look at it this way: the attack damage ratio before 0.3. Let's say late game you have 300 attack damage. That's an extra 90 damage. Big whoop late game.
Oh, I mean, I'll take 90
It's
damage.
good.
Get it.
Take it.
Right.
You know, take it.
As
if
you're
you hit it,
saying,
but-
0.3, not an impressive ratio. But when
Right.
you get from
not gonna
0.3
make
to
it big.
0, like a net loss of 0.3 on any ratio is kind of a big deal.
Right.
Sure.
A loss of 90 damage overall is pretty rough, but if you're moving around faster,
Right,
know,
and I
I
don't
Yeah,
think
the main
that
reason
wasn't
you
a.
use the is for the
Well, it goes back to it makes him more. It makes him more true to his thematic, which he is a
Run and gun.
running gun. He's a gunslinger. He's a running gunslinger. That it makes him more quick, but it doesn't scream max me. Still, it's max ease, so you can move more quickly. You can
Right.
reduce these cooldown with your auto attacks.
Yeah.
W is now 100%, in my opinion, the 1-point wonder.
Yeah, I agree. With
Yeah, I mean, you
Yep.
you get it
it
for
still
the
is.
the
Ranking is
small
a little
amount of
better than
stats.
before, but it's still just hit 1 point and max it last.
I just don't think it's gonna really impact his power too much.
Now the culling is going to impact his power, and it's not going to impact his lane. He's still a giant lane bully. He's still going to win lanes early. He's still very powerful through.
I think he's still going to be just fine.
yeah, I think so too.
It comes down though that you can't use him like a Ziggs to clear waves, repeatedly. Because when you were clearing waves, by the time they either moved to the next tower or the next wave came, you could pretty much cast the ability again, and I think that's what it comes down to. You can't do it. You can't use him as a Ziggs. You can't use him as a wave clear, and I like that. Like I don't feel
Even
like you should be able to all
Ezreal,
that.
who like you use and abuse his ultimate to clear waves and things like that. Even Ezreal's cooldown is an 80-second cooldown on his ult.
And it does
So
less
when you-
damage every minion it passes through.
Exactly. So when you take a look, when you look at that and you think about how often that is, or Lux, which I don't know offhand what hers is, but when you look at those and you think about how often their ultimates are up, and then you look back at Lucian, which was a 50-second cooldown, it kind of makes you realize that it was a little bit overkill.
Overtuned.
Now, speaking of overkill, we'll go on to overload with Rise.
Way
he
to
got
kill
nerfed.
Rise in one complete
Right.
foul swoop. Way to take
Yeah.
Rise out
They're
of this
saying-
It
game.
doesn't kill him, but it brings
no,
him. His
it's-
They're
power
saying
level way
he's so
down.
dominant, so this is a light side nerf. I think it's a pretty heavy-handed
Yeah,
nerf.
I agree with that.
I think
It's
it
not
impacts
like all-
his laning phase significantly, and he's going to
Oh,
lose a
yeah,
lot of
which
the
is where he
matchups
shines.
that he would have won these matchups.
You know what's
before.
funny?
here's the
Dom and I
thing.
talked about this, and we both agreed that why wouldn't you look at Q's scaling with mana? Why wouldn't you look at the mana cost? Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Why wouldn't you remove some of the power late or early and then offload it into late? Why are you removing it such a hefty amount? It went from 60.
From every rank.
It went from
It's
60,
throughout the whole
85,
game.
110, 135, 160, okay? To 40, that's 20, 60, that's 15, 80. Like, it's a giant, like, across the board, just a huge nerf in every ability. Yes, he scales really hard late game, and yes, he did dominate. Like,
I was
he
gonna
shouldn't
say,
dominate
how many
lanes
bad
as well as he
matchups did he have in the top lane?
did. None, really.
That right there is what this is aimed at.
Oh, absolutely.
Now
I
he's
get it.
going to
I
have
get
bad
it. But I don't
But
think that.
now
I think
you're
they should
also
have.
taking.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
go
Dace. No. We're,
But if
I
you're
think we're
going
both
to,
gonna
like,
argue the
with-
same thing.
With everyone that you do that with, where you try to give them a weakness, usually it's offset by leaving their strength alone. So now you're taking it from across the board, and now you're affecting his combos late game too, where now he's 40 less damage every time on his
Really
2
short
late.
cooldown, too. That's
if
40
any-
every cast.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's the thing. If
It's
you go
80 damage, pretty much.
if you
is what it is.
QWE your Q's up, you could borderline get an extra one with R, whatever you want to do. I would have been happier if they would have just slightly scaled up, like just maybe an extra percent or two of
Just
mana.
remove some off the top and then
Or
offloaded that into the back.
Even
They're
if
going to
they,
be keeping an eye on it over the next few patches, so we'll see what
another thing they
happens.
could have done though is just if they were going to take this much
They
off
might do
early, they could have just slightly increased the amount of damage he gets with mana later, so it compensates. Yes, his early's weaker for it, and technically his whole game's weaker for it because it's just a flat removal. But he'd make up that extra damage with whatever mana that he was already building throughout the game.
I'm
I
still
do
probably
think
gonna
he
get
needed-
raped by Rises and Rage.
Well, that's the thing. I do think that, and this is I play a lot of Rise top because he's stupid good top lane. He's another he could definitely be considered an OP top laner.
Yeah, because
and he
ranged
definitely
auto attacks is what it is.
yeah. Well, he definitely needed something. This might, they think this might be too light. This might be too heavy-handed.
I think
I
it's too
still would rather
heavy-handed.
see some change rather than him continuing to just brutalize almost any matchup that he gets into if the person who's playing Rise knows what they're doing.
I'm gonna go
like Declawed and I were in a ranked game where every other lane lost but me, and I dominated top lane, and we just rolled through and won the game. And it, like nobody could do anything because I was stupid Rise that killed the top lane like 6 times.
This is kind of Days. You brought this up earlier. The Ghost Crawler tweets about the 100 or 50-50 type of thing. This reminds me of like the overtuned. I'm going to take 10 damage off rather than I'm going to take 5 damage off and give 5 damage somewhere else. Like,
Right.
This, in my opinion,
This is just a straight cut.
yeah. In my opinion, the
nerf.
first change on Rise should have been I'm taking 5 damage from this ability and I'm moving it to this other ability, or I'm taking it off the early and putting it on the late. Like, I'm okay with Rise being an unstoppable powerhouse if he makes it to level, 15.
But he has to survive the laning phase.
Right. Well,
But,
and
I'm okay with them removing early damage so he can't bully the top laners. But don't take away from what he's good at. Don't take away from the fact that if you make it to late game, you should be rewarded for the fact that you made it through that early stage where you had to play safe and you lost
right,
CS
and
because
that's
of it.
why we saw his move to top lane in the first place anyway. He wasn't going to get blown up by assassins in mid if he wasn't able to get a little bit of extra health early, and he wasn't going to lose matchups against people like Orianna or Ziggs or anyone that could really outrange him. So top lane's super safe for him. But again, I won't know how I feel about this change until
You play
I've
it.
played
mess
him.
around with it for a little bit,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens. It's a heavy nerf.
I mean,
know.
I can definitely tell with
First-
that much damage early, I'm going to feel it because at rank 1, I don't feel like Overload does shit as it is anyway. It's
Yeah,
like right around rank 3 where you're like, okay, that's starting to really add up.
When you add that second level, when it did
Well,
85.
especially when you add, your tier and your catalyst, then it's
Sure.
like, okay, now I
Right.
can really start to
Potential
chunk.
mana AP.
Well, let's
Maybe
go
not
ahead
so
and
much.
move on to Zillion, which really it is the last update in this patch. And that rip global passives. 'Cause
And that's
Yep.
all over.
And that's all she wrote.
No one's sad.
Heightened learning affects allies within 1500 range. Rip mid-zillion. Rip zillion completely unless you're playing
yeah,
support.
I think it's going to be... I don't even think like it's worth its support.
At least in the LCS.
Yeah, it's more of it really is an LCS change.
Right.
I don't think you're going to see him anymore. I think that 8% was huge.
That was the
and
only
I don't
reason
think
you would
people
really play
realized
him.
it.
Dom had been
Right.
calling this for such a long time that the only reason people had played him was because of that.
So do the
because it gives the
casters in all the
team
big
such a
games.
huge advantage.
Right. I don't see a reason to play him anymore. I mean, he's not. Yeah, he's got some poke, but anyone who plays against Zillion in a bot lane, when he bombs, you don't run away. Just kill him. That's the only damage he does.
Right.
Like, stop running away from him.
Solo queue, though, it kills him for solo queue. Or, excuse me, he's still good in solo queue. Like, if you are a good Zillion player, you harass mid very well. Nobody notices that extra experience, and nobody takes advantage of it in solo queue. You can't convince me that they
I wouldn't
do.
say nobody because the people who are taking advantage of it are climbing the ladder.
No, yeah, you can't convince me. Even the people that are playing with it do take. You can't convince me. Okay, literally, like if you're wasting your time if you're trying right now. I know the wheels are spinning, but it's an LCS change where people could get those early dragons, get those early towers, get those early minions, whatever it may be, and get to level 2 1 minion faster than they did before, and use that to their advantage. Like high
There's a higher
pro
level of tactic for that.
0.5% level of the game. This is what this change affects.
He's still annoying.
Absolutely.
But that was the main reason.
He's annoying, but I don't think he was ever, like when the hyper carry meta came back out, he became big again with his ult.
He became bigger,
like,
yeah.
I don't think, and now that hyper carry meta is kind of fading off, he's not, he's not good. You don't see him as much anymore. And I don't feel like you're going to see him very much. And I feel like this kind of kills the whole, like you said, the Team 5 thing. This kills that.
Right.
You can't. There's no real point to having him mid anymore. I mean, unless again, any champ, if you're really good with them, you can dominate with them. You can dominate with the worst win rate champ in the world. If you have, Urgot has a freaking 75% win rate right now in Challenger because there's one person in Challenger who plays him really well. So you can do whatever you want if you're good enough. But it hurts him, and you're not going to see him competitively anymore, I don't think. And I don't even think it's solo queue. That's
the reason they did it.
Well, to wrap up this podcast and stuff, I do want to point out that Agent Golem and Elder Lizard are no more. They're still in the game, but the buffs are no longer called Agent Golem and Elder Lizard. So this is for everybody here too. It is now called Crest of Insight and Crest of Cinders.
Aw, shit.
No, it's still red and blue buff.
It's just to help transition into the new Summoner's Rift, that's all.
Right.
Because there's no Lizard Elder anymore. So
right. It's still red and blue buff, like Punch said, but
and then really cool.
We will call it Elder Lizard from here in here and there when we're talking. It is now Crest of Insight and Crest of Cinders. Days, wake up! We have rank 5s to play because the LCS rundown is going down on Sunday. I swear to God, I'm gonna kick all their asses. Tom, I'm gunning for you, motherfucker! You're dead, motherfucker. I swear to God, I'm gonna come for you. Oh, God. Take your ass out!
He knows he's watching. Oh.
So, guys, that's episode number 208 of the Trinity Force podcast. Thank you so much for watching.
I don't feel safe.
I'm taking out the LCS rundown. They're going to all die.
And Victorious Morgana has drapes for women.
I don't care about Victorious Morgana. You know who's going to be victorious? The fucking Trinity Force podcast. That's it, guys. I'll see you all fucking next week.
Peace.
See ya.